Thank you very much. Thanks very much for being here. We're here at the Jewish Community Centre in Krakow, and we thank Jonathan Ornstein for hosting us here. We thank Sophia, a Holocaust survivor, who spoke with us about her journey and her life, and we thank her for the honour of sharing some time with her. Tomorrow we will mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau and International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So Mark, Dreyfus and I are here in Poland, here together to remember the 6 million Jewish lives lost, taken in the Holocaust. 6 million men, women and children murdered, including 1 million near here at Auschwitz. We are here to say never again. Never again. To stand with others across the international community and say never again. I would say at this time we have to stand together across beliefs, across political difference, across politics. We have to stand against prejudice and hate and antisemitism in all its forms. Because at this time and in this place, we remember where that can lead. And we say never again. I'll hand over to Mark.
Thanks very much, Penny. The Foreign Minister and I are here in Krakow to represent the Australian Government at Auschwitz at the commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And of course, this is a commemoration of the Holocaust. The Holocaust, which is the greatest evil that the world has known. Some 6 million Jews were murdered across Europe. Over 1 million Jews were murdered at Auschwitz, where we're going to be tomorrow. That number includes, at Auschwitz, a member of my own family. My great-grandmother, Ida Runsenberg, then aged 60, was murdered at Auschwitz on the 14th of October 1942. We're attending the commemoration to remember the dead and to say never again. We are attending this commemoration to condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms, to condemn anti-Semitism anywhere in the world, to condemn anti-Semitism in Australia. And we're at this commemoration to acknowledge the magnificent contribution that's been made by Jews to our own Australian community, including the very many survivors of the Holocaust who found their way to Australia, particularly after the war. I'd like to acknowledge the meeting that the Foreign Minister and I have had with Sophia, a Holocaust survivor who has made a wonderful contribution to the rebuilding of the Jewish community here in Krakow, of which this Jewish Community Centre is a part. It's a wonderful thing to think that after what happened in the Second World War, that there is a reborn Jewish community here in Krakow. Thanks very much.
Happy to take questions.
Given the rise in anti-Semitism, is this year's anniversary perhaps more important now than any point in previous decades when this liberation has been remembered?
This commemoration is always important, but you're right to point to the rise of anti-Semitism we see in the world. And when we say never again, we have to not only mean it, but bring that to what we do as political leaders. We do see attending this commemoration as solemn and important. The memory of 6 million murdered, and also the knowledge of what hatred can lead to.
We spoke to some survivors back in Australia the reason they went to Australia and fled there after the war is because it was, in their words, the furthest place from here that they could travel to, but anti-Semitism is now on our shores. I think it's since mid-December, more than 150 incidents being investigated. Is there a sense of responsibility that the government has to share in the fact that it's made its way to our shores in such a large amount?
We all must stand against anti-Semitism whenever and wherever we see it, and we must all work together to confront it. You would have heard me say many times, these attacks are not just an attack on the Jewish, it's actually an attack on who we are as Australians. People came to our country and come to our country because of who we are, a country that welcomes people of all faiths, people from all over the world, and we treat each other with respect, we treat each other with tolerance, we are accepting, and we ensure that we provide a safe community for all our people. That is part of what it is to be Australian, and is what we must hold on to.
Minister, given the rise of anti-Semitism back home in Australia, why is Prime Minister Anthony Albanese not here for the 80th commemoration?
This is a very senior delegation, and this is the Foreign Minister, the Attorney General, and the Special Envoy, and that the seniority of the delegation speaks to how seriously we take this.
You mentioned in your opening comments the need for it to come across political lines. I mean, is that a nod? Do you think this debate has been too partisan in recent weeks?
This is not a time or a place for politics. This is a time to be above politics, because it is such a solemn and sad occasion, but also a time to recommit ourselves to learning the lessons of the Holocaust, the murder of 6 million Jews, and to say never again. So I'm simply saying to all of us in Australia, we must all work together to ensure never again.
This rise of anti-Semitism can't obviously be separated from the conflict in Gaza, the kidnapped Israelis and the destruction there. Overnight, in the last few hours, Donald Trump has said we should, quote, clean out Gaza and see the inhabitants from there move into either Egypt or Jordan. Have you had a chance to speak with any of your partners in the United States, or is it a proposition you would support or entertain?
Well, I would simply say this. We all want the ceasefire to hold, and we all want a path to peace and security for all peoples in the Middle East.
Mr Dreyfus, thank you for sharing your personal story. A lot of Australian Jews have said that the past 18 months has been perhaps the toughest time for Jews in Australia. How hard has it been for you to live both roles as part of the government that's been criticised for that, but also, your family connection?
I understand all too well, perhaps better than most, the shocking rise in anti-Semitism that we've experienced in Australia, and indeed right across the world. Australia has not been alone in what has been a shocking, grotesque rise in anti-Semitism, unexpected after the horrific events of October the 7th. We've all got to work together, and that's government, community, every part of the community have to work together to make sure that anti-Semitism, events of anti-Semitism, conduct that is anti-Semitic, violence that's got an anti-Semitic association, all of that has to end, and all of us have to work together to make sure that it ends. It's really important. It's something that affects every part of the Australian community, not just the Jewish community, and I've got a real sense that we are working together to make sure that it is brought to an end.
Minister Wong, Mr Dutton has been critical in the media of you being here. It says you shouldn't be, you're not the right choice to be here. What would you say in response to that?
Well, this is not a day for politics. This is not a time for politics. This is a time to remember the murder of 6 million people, 6 million Jews, and to say never again. And that's why we're here. And It is, as I said, a solemn occasion. I simply say again, I think if we really mean never again, then we need to work together across politics and across faiths. And I have confidence Australians can do that.
And if I could add to that, this is an appropriate time and it is an appropriate place to actually reject attempts to politicise the Holocaust or to politicise anti-Semitism. Combating anti-Semitism, remembering the Holocaust, does not belong to the left or the right. It does not belong to the progressive side of Australian politics or the conservative side of Australian politics. It is the solemn duty of everybody, of all of humanity, to remember the Holocaust, to say never again. And it's been grotesque, I use that word again, to see the rise in anti-Semitism since October the 7th, but it has been equally grotesque to see attempts being made to politicise either commemoration of the Holocaust or combating anti-Semitism. We need to get politics out of this. It's a joint effort for the whole of humanity to remember the Holocaust, to remember the 6 million murdered Jews, and to say, as Foreign Minister have said, as I've said, never again. That's the task that we're here for. That's why this is an appropriate time and place to say there's been far too much politicisation. It's time for it to end.
Minister, on that note, was there any suggestion that the Governor-General may come as a kind of neutral person?
I haven't engaged with the Governor-General about that. As I said before in a press conference, Mike and I and the Deputy Prime Minister and I spoke about this, and we believe this was a suitably senior delegation. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Can I